All right. So wood is a collection of tubes, like little straws sitting there, right? Going with the grain. Some of these straws, the end of it's looking at you. Some of them were ground out into elliptical. So if you look here and you watch the color, let's see what happens if the angle changes. See how it's shifting? Look at that. Now it's light. It happens faster. The camera is not capturing as much information as your eyeball. So you don't see you see the shift in person. You see it usually quicker by the edge of the table. See how it's starting to happen right there? The lines, right? Look right there. See how it's starting to get dark and then the whole thing's turning dark? It's because you're changing the angle, and now there's even more depth here. All of a sudden that came into view. There's more depth because you're seeing down inside of the wood. And the other thing that's really interesting is the cycles here between these dark and light stripes. I don't know if we can get close enough. You see how here you'll start seeing the lines in between, right? Like the big dark ones all have, there's a good one you can see on the camera. Up, lost focus, backing up, I'm sorry. Oh, I don't know where to look. It's quitting. There you go. See how there's lines in between the dark ones? You can kind of see that. They became fainter depending upon the orientation of the tube as you go across this piece of wood. And they show where the drought was. That was a hard year, and so it's really dense. And so this was sanded again and again and again and again and again. I did it old school, where you plane it first, and it feels good. You set up your grandfather's planes and you go for it. It's tough to plane something that's sitting with a grain going a different direction than the other. But that's how I planed it out to get it flat. And then the idea of doing your best every moment, whether it's Martin Luther who said it, or Japanese woodworkers from 1,000 years ago, or Egyptians building a pyramid. What if you did every step, you try to figure out a way that you could do your best? So the reason that you have these is that old saying, a cobbler's kids have no shoes. This is a table that I've been working on for a new dining room table for my family. And this are both walnut. This is old growth walnut that came off the side of a barn. And this piece and this piece, if you notice the grain, it matches. See how that big circle? So it was one piece split open. And the reason I split it open the way that I did is because, disregard the chunk oak, is because that is a way the candle patterns of menorahs, the structures of churches. This is a fundamentally beautiful and sovereign moment, And the idea that wood grows because it grabs sunlight and turns it into energy and stores it. Why does it ever stop storing energy? You get a beautiful violin, viola, cello, wood bass, guitars do the same things. You buy a more expensive one, they sound better, but they also take less time to warm up and come into their own. There's some sort of energy that you can hold your violin. When I played in an orchestra, if I didn't have time to warm up on it, I'd hold it and pet it and rub it, because it would get in the sweet spot. I could make it sound great maybe partway through the first section of the first movement or something. So anyhow, and this board's all the same. That's just new walnut. The ratio of where that line is and the one down at the bottom is the way that it was signed in math, the two people that were working on it. That's somebody that I was mentoring, and he's coming into his own and becoming awesome. So all of these moments have an air, right? And if you build it up, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and then you have the two outside edges, 19 and 21. So rather than a normal table having 2 moments for air, one on each edge, this one has 21 moments for air to compound. And it was machined by the old school hand way, so I was trying to get it as tight as I could, and then I'd build it into sections so that I could adjust for the air. And then as I assembled it from two different directions so that I would have a moment where you meet in the middle and there'd be no hiding of your air. You know, like in the middle, meet in the middle of the mountain. See how accurate you were. And that's where my air had to compound. And like the old beautiful Japanese tradition where a family holds a plate together and you drop the plate and it breaks and it gets lacquered together again and you put gold on it. And the lacquer, it makes it stronger and better than it was in the beginning, and it puts that gold on it. Like, that's you. That's your human experience. Being perfect is the divine coming through you, right? Just airing all the time is you just being a lazy monster, but it's when life breaks us, and it's how we choose to put ourselves back together. I wanted to get the walnuts really stable, so I wanted to control what the moisture load was in the inside because the back of it's sealed in plastic. So if I can get the front drier, it won't open and close as much, and I can seal it. Like the varnish that I'll put on it will seal it. So I had some extra epoxy, and I mixed up epoxy and hit the checks and forced it down into the checks. It acts like this great stabilizing thing, but all those airs are going to get gold leaf when I put the varnish on them. Now, when you varnish, back to over here, as you sand those tubes, you're polishing a surface that lets you look down into it three-dimensionally. That's why you get that shift. And so typically on varnish, like the first coat you put on is 90% mineral spirit, so it sucks it deep into the wood. And then you work your mix rate up. So, you know, there's less and less mineral spirits diluting it. And like you can see going across here, see how like the grains still isn't filled in quite. So until that sits completely fat, I sand it as best as I can with a 220 grit until I can't make it any better. And I sand from this outer edge over to this 2/3 moment, and then I rotate at 90 and I do the same thing, focusing on that pattern that's within my arm's reach of making it the absolute best I can figure it. Any mistake that I can find, I get rid of it. And then I go to 320 grit, then I go to 420 grit. And I don't quit until I finish that section and it no longer improved. So most of the time I don't have to go too many times past 1, but sometimes I do. And then you go up. And then you get into hand sanding with 600 grit. And then you scrub it clean with get all the powders out of the holes, right? So blow it out, use a vacuum, suck it out, then use denatured alcohol and scrub it and scrub it and scrub it and scrub it out. And then I kept the mix the same. So in this, that's still the 90% mineral spirits because I want a really deep fill. I want to reach real deep into the tubes because over here, if you're in person, you would see all these shifting colors happening as you're seeing down into the wood. Like, see how it just went away? Like in person, it's amazing. So any change in light when you're sitting at it, every time you walk into the room, the light's going to be a little different. The uniqueness of the moment that you're currently in is going to be a little different. The feelings you have when you're at the table, growing up at big, beautiful meals, being respected, having your own space, like it's a fundamental health to everything that is great in life. So the idea is, my kids said that on the first Christmas they had without me, what they requested was to learn to shoot a bow and arrow and to sail a boat so they could sail around the world with their dad. So I'm building that table too so that it can be mounted into this house when we're here. And then I can unclip it and I can put it on a boat. And that's something that I am enjoying working towards. So this table is being made for somebody else. And it's my first commissioned piece of furniture. And out of respects of the cobbler's kids have no shoes, I'm moving it forward. So the reason I'm not sanding on that is this is the rest of the trim that matches in the house. That's the window that goes on the second floor shower. That's the cutting board that the guy will throw back into production with that when we do the next garage door. And then these are the rest of the moldings that are going up. I'm putting these up, finishing up the bathroom. So I start here and I sand it out. Sasha keeps me company. She's got a bath coming. And then let's head on up. So this house, by the way, was found unfit for kids. This is a steel fire door. You can see here keyed deadbolts on both sides of the door. And then over here, this thing glowing is a biometric, right? Nope, didn't like it. Liked it. And so it's a way to intercommunicate with the home's security system. And so you need a fingerprint and you need a key to be able to get in the basement because there's saws that can hurt you, right? So when we did bath time down there, it was a whole family event and we'd watch music and do stuff together. So, you know, this is, and over here, you got the first floor. So this is the house that's unfit. So hang on. The other thing I did so far is I cleaned up the mess from working yesterday and, you know, just moved that forward. These are a way to store bricks and pavers that I was collecting so I could redo the driveway with the old buildings that were knocked down. And you can see, you can't, there's more bricks back here for redoing the sidewalk and stuff, and then bang, this wood pile. So I've been cutting down trees, fallen down trees to help a neighbor and a friend. Like there's a couple that I took out for the neighbor, getting his house ready for sale. So the back of the minivan is still filled with all sorts of junk, like debris from the wood. Here, the flowers are coming up. Look at this. So I got all these bulbs that come in here. And then I have boxes that sit on the windows. And then I've also run tubes out so I can water the boxes. And those are controls to hold shutters back, storm shutters. So I can turn the whole side of this wall into a rock climbing, to practice rock climbing with a harness out of the roof. The wood chips for machining, more bulbs. And in the yard itself, in the grass out here, are bulbs to the, in the shape of the letters of my daughter's name. And Michael too, of my children's name. So there's an L out there and such, and so they're already starting to come up. It was a way that I managed, and that's the tree that I'm trimming in the shape of a heart. And over there are the apple trees that I was telling you about, here and here. And the third one is there. These are, there's Rosa Sharon back here from their great-great-grandmother. The bulbs coming up around the trees, that was my father-in-law. Oh, look, remember how we set the alarm? So you can come in, and there's, usually that's closed, there's a double door catchway. You come over, you put your finger on it. Took twice last time, right? There you go, 3 times. And then you can put your shoes down here, or your motorcycle helmet. I got my work gloves because I was moving wood around this morning, and I want them to dry out because they're making my fingers cold. I got, I like to make my own stock, so I got 2 chicken carcasses in there, and I'll boil it for like a week to get the bone marrow and such out. These are all things that I've built. Like all this room went to the studs, added these windows in. Here to hold the spices and such. And then there's another table that I ended up making. And the benches that I made in the bottoms open up so you can store goods in there. My dining room I redid. And I'm just doing this quickly because this is the house that was found unfit for kids. I was able to set up like a puzzle background. Like good ideas can come from anyone. So I'm a parent, so anybody who's been down that path before, particularly if they're healthy and happy and their kids are healthy and happy, ask them. So I've filled it with all sorts of different games, a little rock collection with some fossils and stuff, you know, for the kids, and an inflatable thing, so we can dial it in. We can inflate it harder if that's what they want. It was interesting, like when you're young, your nerves need to develop, so you got to use them a lot and find where your center is and your hips and your balance. And it was interesting now, like me being 40-something, trying to figure out how to do that, how slow my learning rate is. A spots for Sasha to sit, you know, the stereo, some CDs. We usually listen to music, play piano. We got books. So there's classical literature that's changed the way that I think. And I've read multiple times, like Shakespeare and others, and American Grace and Classics, a chunk for the younger kids. And then there's a chunk over here. Well, now I'm building them their own bookshelf I started making a library of books for the kids, like a small library. Made it part of the father-daughter reading program at Our Lady of the Elms. And there's a pantry over here. Hang on, there you go, with a light. Oh, and it's on a switch so that if you leave it on and you close the door, the home system will turn it off when you go to leave. Usually something sitting on the staircase for me to carry up. These are going to be the blanks because the screw holes are a little too far apart. So these are plates that I happen to have. This landing has a message in for the kids in Morse code. That's the access door to the plumbing, for the second floor. So if you ever got to clean the trap that's going to go in for the clawfoot tub, these are balancing loops. So if your sister flushes a toilet on you, you can't get burned. That's the vent pipe that's going to come up for the trap for the clawfoot tub. So they're balancing valves. This down here, this loop, is for commercial magnetic hold. So if it's the time of year you want a lot of air movement in your house, like it's not wintertime, you can open the door to the second floor and help it, and it'll be on a magnetic lock. So if the fire alarm goes off, the door closes. And everything was painted with intumescent paint, so you can make a fire to 2,000 degrees. It's not going anywhere. Toe kicks, laundry chute built. So here was the other picture on Snapchat of the access door for all the valves. And I made the hookup so you don't need a sweat pipes. You can just, inspect them. Heat's going to break down the hot line faster than the cold on the cold, most likely. So when you replace them on the laundry machines, like once every 10 years or so, depends upon the quality that you get, you can just change out the hoses. Tools that you will need for it. And then this. And I made the door to a plan, and it did have this over here. But that was the air from my plans between when I finished and yada. And I didn't finish in here. This will most likely get an epoxy. So far you see an oil-based primer. But like the edge here isn't finished because it's a perfect job that I can do with my kids. Like we can do it together. So over here is a linen closet. And there's a shelf, and each one has lights. And so to service the lights, there's a service box right here for the things. And so we're going to put up like these old plates. And so you can get blank fillers for the Decora plates. And we can just, we can just alternate it. Hang on now. And I can go through and touch up the paint one more time. You can see I did a little more mud work over there. And so now the walls are really looking good. Mortising in for the hinges. Got the beam. This next piece goes up. That window's already built in the basement. And then you have the door in here. And so there's the door that I'm going to need a machine. They no longer plane the edges. Nobody makes a door to fit a hole really tightly. And I do, because then the door lets you know if something's changing within the house. I can use it as a canary in a coal mine, if you will. And I want to control how the air flows in and out of the space. So at the end down here, there's still left is a mirror and then a tub. And the 2 speakers, the wiring's in for it. Over here is the thing for the TV. This holds a piece of art. Those are the globes. That's for the toilet cleaning supplies. Over here, wet wipes and extra toilet paper, and it'll be like 3 doors. Something in the center. No lights on that. I could add it, but I didn't think it was necessary. Over here in front of it, since you won't use that access door very much, will be a big radiant heater electric, because it'll warm all the floor, it'll warm the mass of the toilet, it'll warm the cast iron tub, and all the walls are lined with Mylar insulation. So the window there to let the light from here come through, you have the pedestal sink with a mirror. Now in here you can see, like I started doing one more round on the sheetrock. So behind where the mirror wasn't really great, but since I got to get into it again, I'm going to go over it. I dropped a board here, boom, right into the side when I was putting up those boards that I made. Like it was a rough sawn lumber that my friend was involved with the falling of the tree or the machining of it into rough sawn. and I put them to use. Behind it is a laminate beam of 3/4 inch plywood on edge, and that's what's actually carrying the load. And all these, like the window sills had to get built out, and the door sill over here had to get widened, and they were out of walnut. And so I used the scrap pieces of ash to finish cistern into it, because the walls, you can see over here, they're 2x4s. This is where the shower door is going to mount, so there's plenty of wood to hit. And then all the wall pockets are shot with foam, and then they get mylar in front of that, and then they get plywood in front of that, then you get sheetrock in front of that. So this is for, and how in this room you can have, like, if you were to put a TV somewhere in the room, it'd be over here. So it's all hooked up for. This is for an alarm control panel for the second floor. The shower has water control valves on each side, so all the pipes were insulated, wrapped in mylar, then it gets put in a pocket, shot with foam. They're all commercial L copper that was silver brazed together. And so I changed how the superstructure went. Like, I could see how the idea had failed over the last 100 years. So I made one way for the house to not fail. It can be carried along this. The second way is across these beams. And then the third way is it actually can just hang off the truss system by making the triangle smaller. So this is the next project. Usually there's something that the kids can help me with, and I get them dreaming about it and put it up. That's going to be a dresser. The face of it is in the basement. That's going to be a dresser. I got a TV from a friend, and it's the right size to sit right there when they upgraded. You know, some extra boxes of cable. But the door, and yeah, all right, so here. So you can see right there, there's the gate. That goes across here, and then I lock the door to the bedroom, and the kids can see the construction but not be in harm's way. That's the way it's always been. And a house doesn't make kids safe. The people around the kids help the kids to be safe. So this is the access door that'll go here. It was from the, if you want to build something great like that dining room table, and I needed, let's say, 100 blocks, I made 300 blocks so that my top third, I could grab like my third best out of them. And then I could use it to build other things. Picture of a sunset festival with my great friend Chris Judd. Clean laundry. I gotta make my bed. So you're seeing it all messy like. There's a beautiful admiral that gives a speech, and some others, like start your day by making your bed, and then when you get back, and it will be right, exercising, some clothes. So I haven't gotten into my housework yet. I started with moving wood, and then doing the table. Now, this is the room that my son hasn't gotten to spend a lot of time with, so we need to go through here and figure out what he wants to keep, what he doesn't want to keep. Jars are great for collecting lightning bugs and things like that. It just depends whether he can not smash things and stuff. Things that were adventures, like the freedom and the joy of spending time riding on a bicycle. The first pair of skis I had, my favorite pair of racing skis that I take out west. Backpack that I've done tons with, my rock climbing gear. His great-grandfather's gas mask bag from World War II, his grandfather's backpack that he used when he was an Eagle Scout, and then drawings up high that his dad did when he was younger, and a nice reminder, and room for him to put his art up on. And then anything he wants to change about it. He loves his blankets, good stuffy neck rolls, and we'll make a bed. We'll make the bed. So this is the environment that's unfit for kids. And it was unfit for kids because it was a moment like this. This is a cold air return, and there's a piece of conduit in it because there's electrical wires going up. So I ran a mast right through the cold air return going from the basement to the third floor all the way to the roof, really, so that then I can pull the electrical down for whatever you wanted. There's one sitting there blank. So you could do something in the future. You can go from the roof to the basement if you needed it. And there's one in there for high voltage. So if you were going to have solar panels. And there's one for communication for low voltage. When you wrap everything in Mylar, it makes it hard to punch a cell signal through. So the alarm system has its own cellular broadcaster up in the attic, and the antenna for that goes through there. And then this is a laundry chute that I made. because why not? Now see the paint hasn't been cut in, and I was waiting on the paint up there since I got to refix the wall of the stairwell again. I've been getting the molding up, finishing that because I have it. Awesome art. That's the other thing. So like that art's from the neighbor. This beautiful picture is from going sailing with a friend. And in here, that beautiful picture is from a good friend, beautiful human being by the name of Gretchen Beerbaum. Like, she's just awesome. And so there's great moments to it. Like my sweetheart in college made pots, and I did photography. And then there's my kids all happy and healthy. Up here you can see there, and see these holes up by the ceiling? That's where I did have the guns racked. And I had them racked with the chamber open, unloaded, because I didn't want them to rust in the basement. And they were locked, remember that biometric reader? So that was one of the reasons that was used as an excuse for why I can't have my kids in my house. When that happened, and since I haven't been able to be here for 11 months, now you can see they're closed and they're loaded up and they're sitting there, you know. My great-grandfather's 1890 Winchester that the stock got broke when they were skipping school. It's a great story. Double barrel. I was hunting and had to fire both off and busted out like a piece of wood right there. And then the Weatherby, I've worn that out. I've had to get that rebuilt multiple times. I like shooting clay pigeons that you throw into the thing like a sport. And then you go up the stairs here, and there's the girls' bedroom on the 3rd floor. So anyhow, this was open, and the register for it is in the dishwasher. And if you look closely, you can see the airs in the plaster right here. Since I'll be doing another coat of plaster, and I'm going to hit that and then touch up over here, and I'll be doing that next. And then sanding the table, moving that forward, and then going and cutting down some trees. So have a plan for your day and go at it. And let me know what you see in here that is unfit for kids. Coach me up. I'm not saying that I'm the best. I'm not saying this environment is way better than everybody else's. It's not from a point of bragging. Like, I made this threshold here because I had made the floor thicker so that things won't break as you sag down in it. And the door is going to open in against the toilet. And I'm trying to leave little moments like this so we can finish it together as a family, so that there's room for you to give and create and take some ownership. And then the radiant tile bar will dry out. We got a lot of moisture in Ohio, so it's like on a sailboat. It's nice to just dry out. And it's also nice because then all the stuff in the bathroom's warm, and when the fan kicks on, which is quiet, it's on a timer. Listen. You can kind of hear it, huh? And that's sucking out 120 CFM. So you got to get the steam to go over both of these bumps, right? And it'll come out through here and have to go across that, around the light, across that, and up. So I wanted the door to fit tight. And that'll be the stub out for the tubs. The controls will be on the back of the tub, so you can sit facing either way in it on a clawfoot. And the door is going to open this way into the toilet. So if you're sitting on the toilet and somebody comes into the bathroom, as they open the door, you still got a little more time. And then, something to look at up there from the neighbor. So because that was out, but it was here, it was on the 1st floor. Mind you, when I got examined for if the house was appropriate for kids, the reason they failed me was an air register vent was out, like upstairs. Mind you, it was the day the kids weren't here. The secretary's got to move so that she can get the wood up the 2nd floor. Like, it's a real problem. Underneath this, you see this cross brace across the bottom right here. You see that? And you see how there's all that dirt, and you see how there's a cold air register floor vent. This was moved out of the way, and the vent was out so that I could suck the dog out of the cold air return while I was putting in the last box of this hardwood floor. And I got the hardwood floor. It was overage on a big commercial job, so they were willing to sell it for cheap. And so it's hickory with a walnut inlay. And then all of this, I rebuilt, rewired, redid everything. And so it was cited that this 3/4 inch lip right there was a tripping hazard. So the fact that that edge register was out and that was out ended in me putting this table outside this window, right there on the sidewalk, right there, with a fire pit over there and a radiant heater, propane over here, and we had Thanksgiving right in the front yard because the kids weren't allowed in the house. And we celebrated other days in the crappy old sailboat in the backyard because this environment was unfit for kids. There's no moment to the experience that I had where you're going to look at it and it's going to make any sense. It's just not. So if you can coach me up, and since I'll be getting back into painting soon, like the little details like the trim pieces underneath the countertop, I'm going in and I'm getting all the molding up. Then once it's all up, I'll grab the primer I got and we'll go through. Like, I might as well just make use of the resources that I currently have available and just get as much done as I can, right? Happy Monday. Go be awesome and know you're loved.